Hello everyone, and welcome to the Flange Time with Flange Master Tal. My name's Graham, I'm the Flange Master Tal, and I hope y'all are flanging it up and remembering to bring your towels, like you all should, because towels are useful everywheres. So today we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Direct Mini and kind of the disappointment, and really the focus is going to be more so on what this means in the bigger picture and what I believe is actually going on here. And I think it's more than just things are a bit slow because of the whole COVID human malware situation still going on, unfortunately. I think it would have been a slow year no matter what. And we're going to talk about that and flange it up. So let's get the Direct Mini rolling. And yeah, so this was a disappointing Direct. Although, quick note on the disclaimer, that's really interesting that they did that. It's a good idea. At this point, all sorts of unforeseen things could screw up some release dates. So it's a good idea to throw that in there, just so to be like, hey, if anything changes, don't get too crazy about it. On that note, there's going to be a quick flange about the toxic review bombing going on by people who are very upset about this Direct Mini. We're not going to talk about this here. It's not the video for it. Just going to do a quick flange after this to go over that quickly. But really, we're here to talk about the bigger picture of Nintendo's slow year. And it's undoubtedly been a slow year for Nintendo. It's been one of the slowest years I've seen from Nintendo since I got back into the Nintendo and console gaming with the Nintendo Switch. I had kind of an off period with console gaming where I was focused more on PC gaming. Life was a bit crazy. I didn't really have the money to really flange up console gaming. I wanted a Wii U, but it never really happened. So the Wii U was kind of just like a slow period for Nintendo in a sense, but it wasn't even really. They're still trying to be active and stuff, even though it wasn't that successful of a content. Like, other people might have a better idea, but this is, I think, maybe Nintendo's slowest year ever potentially. Although, quick aside, they opened with the best thing in the Direct Mini. I'm kind of like, you guys should have closed with this, because this is the best thing in the Direct Mini, hands down, no questions asked. They should have closed with this, and that's not just me speaking as a Zelda fan. As far as the other games go, I don't really care about them, and I don't think a lot of other people do. I mean, don't get me wrong, other people definitely care about those games, but like, it almost seems like this Direct Mini was kind of there just to give us a Direct, just to kind of like keep us satisfied, and also to not make it seem like it's that slow of a year. But the thing is, if we look at this is slow. Nintendo's never had Directs this week, at least not to my knowledge. Maybe there's something I'm forgetting or just hasn't come across my notice, but like, this is not a strong showing from Nintendo, and I've released some previous content on it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a big deal. There's kind of this fallacy in capitalism where you always got to be growing, you always got to be doing better than last year, and I think it's okay to hold steady for a period of time and plan to do something big in this near future. So the thing is, with some of this stuff, they kind of have to keep their shareholders and investors and stuff happy. So they kind of have to put up this image like it's not that slow and, oh, we're still making money, we're still growing and all this stuff. Otherwise, the investors and shareholders will be like, wait, you're not constantly growing? That's not cool. We don't like that. And then, they might pull out and stuff. So there's kind of a weird paradigm where if they're not constantly growing, or at least appear as such to their shareholders and investors, they might lose shareholders and investors, and that would be bad for the company because of how all this works. Anyway, so why are they having a slow year? Is it really just COVID? I don't think so. I think it looked like things were slow already before COVID happened. And it's kind of hard to tell for sure because of the timing. But before COVID happened, I was already kind of on a Nintendo's looking like a slow year page. And then COVID happened, and if they're already having a slow year, and I don't mean this as a negative, COVID could just be a very good cover for them just having a slow year naturally. And that's fine. They got to keep the shareholders and investors happy. So if they're like, oh, it's COVID's fault, it's not, we're actually just holding steady for a year and refusing to grow because we have other plans for next year, it kind of gives them an excuse. But like, who cares about this game? I gotta take a break. Who cares? I don't think anyone really cares. I think the people playing the game are good actors. Well, one of them seems to be a pro wrestler, so he's definitely a good actor. I'm not sure about the lady there. She might be a wrestler, and I just don't know. I don't even know who these people. Oh no, I think she is a wrestler. She's got the build for it. It looks like. Never mind. They could be wrestlers, so they're good actors. Anyways, um, I don't think anyone cares about this game that much, or anything other than the Cadence of Hyrule. And oh, physical release! I'm actually really excited for the physical release of Cadence of Hyrule. Anyways, back to the actual real point. There's two big reasons I think they're having a slow year on purpose. It doesn't make sense to compete with Xbox and PlayStation 5. They're having their big next-gen console release this year. That's gonna just, if Nintendo were trying to compete with that, they'd just get overshadowed. It wouldn't work out very well. And I think as much as they can be disconnected and make some silly moves sometimes, they do make a lot of smart moves. And I think it is a smart move to have a slow year and let PlayStation and Xbox have more of the spotlight. Sometimes you don't want to compete for the spotlight because you know you're not going to get it. So just let them have it, let them have their time, and worry about next year. And just hold steady this year, save it all for next year. And I think that's why they told us there will not be new hardware, at least of significance. I forget what the exact phrasing was, but they basically told us don't expect new hardware of any significance this year. And that's kind of what adds to it, because they have to do new hardware of some sort that supports 4K at this point. If they don't, they just fall behind too much. They can only maintain 1080p in a 4K console paradigm for so long, even if their games are really high quality and they've got the hybrid/portability factor. That only goes so far. And they have to bring it up at least a notch, at least to 1440p handheld. Or sorry, I got that wrong. 1080p handheld, 1440p on screen, but TVs are 4K, so that doesn't really make sense. What I think, and I've already been kind of saying this, I said this in the previous content about Nintendo having a slow year, although that wasn't a very good video. So I've already said it. I think they do have new hardware planned, and I think it's a home-only console. I think they're going to have the Switch Lite as portable only, the regular Switch as hybrid, and then they're going to have a Switch Pro, or I don't think they're going to call it a Switch Pro, maybe a Switch Home. I'll put money they'll call it Switch Home. I'll put cash bets on that they're going to call it Switch Home. I just made that up right now. I'm like, that sounds way too good and way too Nintendo. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if I just called it by accident. Anyways, that aside, I could totally be wrong, of course. I'm just talking shit there, kind of. But I wouldn't be surprised one bit if they do call it Switch Home. But the point is, I think they're going to have a 4K or at least 1440p native that upscales to 4K, so you get 4K display that still looks really good. They can do a lot with upscaling that makes stuff look really good. Like back in the day, HD DVD had built-in upscaling. Like, this is not technology that's like that crazy hard. Like HD DVD, even though it failed as a format when it was competing with Blu-ray way back in the day, it had built-in upscaling. My dad had an HD DVD player and was like ranting and raving about the fact that it can like do a really good job of upscaling just regular SD DVDs. So if way back in the day HD DVD could do that, the Nintendo Switch can do some upscaling. Like the dock now they could release a dock Pro that upscales to 4K and makes it look pretty decent. Like they could do that right now easily if they wanted to. It might not be cheap, but they could. Damn, like that was so fast. We're already done and I still got stuff to say. Like, oh wow. It's just way too short, way too many. Like this is like a mini direct. It's like an ultra mini direct. Anyways, so back to the 4K home console Switch. Like as far as I can see, they have to. Otherwise, they're just going to wind up falling behind, especially when the next gen PS5 and Xbox Series X comes out. There's going to be people. Just let me switch that over. Let me switch that over. There we go. Hotkeys are still a little bit flaky. I still don't understand what Windows did that changed that to make it weird. Anyways, so back to the topic at hand. Yeah, with the 4K console, they have to. Otherwise, like I was just saying, they're going to fall behind. And with the next gen consoles that are going to be pushing for 4K 60 FPS, people are eventually going to be like, hey, Nintendo Switch, you guys want to get caught up a little bit maybe? And it's already a thought on people's minds, and it'll just be an increasing thought on people's minds. And if they read the room and the writing on the wall, they're going to realize that they have to do something to advance the Nintendo Switch family in a graphical sense, and it's totally fine to remain at 720p handheld and 1080p docked for the current Switch models. That's fine, but we need new models, and I won't be surprised if there's also a new, better performing handheld Switch model. I'm totally expecting that too, but I think they're going to have a desktop or a home-only console. I'm so certain of that. Especially with everything they've been saying about the Switch, I'm so certain that's coming next year, and maybe or maybe not also with an upgraded performance handheld console. That wouldn't surprise me. And with the home console, I'm also seeing they're probably going to do something similar to the Wii U, I think, where you'll have your home Switch, but there'll still be a Switch because you'll be able to pair it up with your handheld Nintendo Switch, and then you'll be able to do like the Wii U thing. And then when it comes to emulating old Wii U things and also 3DS and 2DS games, or just DS games in general, now you've got your two screens. So now you can do virtual console kind of stuff, even though their rebranding of the virtual console has not been very good. Now you can do virtual console stuff with the DS era games, 3DS/2DS era, the Wii U, where it's got the two screens. Now you've got two screens. You've got your TV screen and your handheld screen. And I think that could work very, very well, and they can accomplish what the Wii U was set to accomplish much better with the Switch hardware as it exists, and as it probably will exist in the coming year of 2021. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And this is speculative, of course, but this is speculation based on the known facts and data and etc. that's out there. And just looking at the whole bigger picture, it's like, if Nintendo wants to keep up to the Xbox Series X and the PS5, they have to do something that brings up the performance and graphic fidelity of the Switch family in some way or another. And why wouldn't they do that this year? Well, like I was saying before, why try and compete with the PS5 and Xbox Series X spotlight? If you really think about it, it doesn't make sense for them to do that. It just doesn't make sense at all. They'll just get overshadowed, and now you've got three players competing for attention all at the same time. Nah, let Xbox and PS5 fight it out. I mean, they're not really fighting it out. They're actually being pretty cool about the competition compared to past competition and past histories of video game console competition. Anyways, they're having a friendly little competition, and it just doesn't make sense for me to Nintendo to like butt its way into that and be like, oh, I want to play too, but I'm not going to look as good, but I've got portability and unique features. And it's just like it just won't compete in that way. And the thing is, Nintendo's edge has never really been graphical fidelity. It's been unique games, interesting games. It's been about the games, and it's also been about the technology, and it's really been about uniqueness and innovation and stuff like portability. They've really been, if anyone's been like the king or master of portable handheld gaming, it's been Nintendo. They've been at it the longest, and they've been the most successful at it by a long shot. I mean, the PSP and the PS Vita, they're great. I think they could have done better potentially. I had a PSP. I want to get one again. I want to get a PS Vita. I like the PSP kind of as more of a portable emulation machine, but that's really why I want to get one again, actually, is more for the emulation factor, and having a portable emulator is just so easy with the PSP. And potentially PS Vita, I'm just not so familiar with it. So that's the thing, a handheld system without really great games and really great features, just, you kind of lack motivation to get it unless you're going to hack it for emulation. And that's the reason I had one when I was doing Seismic. So yeah, it doesn't make sense for them to compete, because yeah, they've got some aces up their sleeve and stuff, but it's not enough. And it just, as a bigger picture strategy, if I was Nintendo, or maybe that's not the best phrasing, but it seems to make sense to me for Nintendo to be like, no, we're just going to take it easy this year. We're not going to do a whole lot. And oh yes, I kind of slipped my mind a little bit. So the last factor I did want to discuss a little bit that just almost slipped my mind there. I don't have the best preparation for this video, I have to admit, kind of off the cuff. is the lack of games this year. Like, there's games like Breath of the Wild 2, Bayonetta 3, Metroid Prime Trilogy that we're just not really hearing much about, where it's like, well, we heard them long ago enough. It's like, well, where are they? Can we get some updates? And I think the reason we're not getting updates is because they're waiting until next year. And I think part of the reason we're not getting updates is they're going to be games that are tuned for this new hardware that has better graphic fidelity and enhanced better graphics. So if they've got these games that are being made for this Switch hardware that they haven't announced, that they're holding back on even announcing until Xbox and PlayStation have had their spotlight and their time in the sun and all that, it doesn't make sense to hype the games if they're kind of dependent on hardware that's not showing up, and they kind of want to keep under wraps because they don't want to get involved with the current next gen console competition flange going on. So it makes sense to me, and I think this was, like I was saying, this was going to be a slow year before COVID. If there had been no COVID, I think it would have looked almost exactly the same, except maybe a couple more directs and maybe a few more releases, but nothing that big from like the first party or the big AAA or anything like that. I don't think we would have seen much of that no matter what this year. And I think Nintendo being slow this year is really not much to do with COVID, and they're kind of using it as a cover just so they don't get too much heat from the shareholders and investors. And when it comes to these big games, like I was saying, it doesn't make sense to like hype them up and talk a lot about them if they're going to be dependent on hardware that they don't even want to talk about, because like they're going to show us stuff and then it'll look really good and we'll be like, why does it look better than anything the Nintendo Switch is capable of? And then we'll start being like, oh, the new hardware is coming, and they'll be like, oh fuck, they know about the new hardware already. And like I've noticed this thing where they like to keep things under wraps, and there's times where it's really felt like something got leaked or revealed or people guessed it, and I've got speculative, of course, but the impression I got is that they actually changed what they're doing because it was found out about or leaked, etc. And they're like, the surprise is up, and we want to surprise people, so now we got to rethink this. And I think that's part of the factor there, is if they show us these games now and then they show us the gameplay and stuff, it's like, wow, that looks really good, but they're not talking about why it looks really good. Well, people are going to put two and two together and be like, shit, new hardware is coming next year. So hopefully I'm just ahead of that curve a little bit, and I just like taking bigger picture viewpoints. It's just kind of my thing. And zooming out to take that bigger picture viewpoint and trying to weigh all the factors and variables, that's what I've come up with. Is it's an intentionally slow year that really doesn't have much to do with COVID, because they're saving it all for next year because they don't want to get washed out by the PlayStation and Xbox competition. And yeah, that's pretty much where my conclusion sits, and I'm wondering, what do you guys think? Do you think that's the high probability? Do you think I'm just talking out my ass and I don't have any basis on that? If you think so, like, please let me know, but bring up actual facts and data to back up your position, please. Because if I am wrong, I do feel like I need to change my opinion and my speculations if there is significant evidence to prove my speculations incorrect. And yeah, I'm super curious what other people out there think. Do you think this slow year's just because of COVID? Do you think it's actually intentional and they're holding back for next year because it doesn't make sense to compete with Xbox and PlayStation right now? I'm super curious. I want to know what you guys think. Flange that up in the comments down below. You can hit me up on my Twitter. That's Flanger of Tells, because the Flange Master Tell doesn't fit in Twitter's character limit, so Flanger of Tells on Twitter, although it still says Flange Master Tell, it's just at Flanger of Tells on Twitter. And live streaming will resume next week, although I'm kind of tempted to do some early or in the morning test streams this week, because I've got an idea put into my head about when to stream. So if you're interested in having some of this discussion on stream, we'll be playing Ghost of Tsushima probably during the mornings as kind of an experimental thing, so it won't be a regular thing. I won't hype it up or anything. I'll let people know, obviously. So yeah, there's lots of places to engage with me and have this discussion if you want to flange that up. And again, I'm super curious to hear what other people think. And I think maybe just people haven't thought this through that far and zoomed out to take that bigger picture view. And I'm super curious if people listen to this and like, oh, now this makes more sense. Or maybe people listen to this and be like, oh, no. Here's this, there's a variable you missed or a factor you didn't consider. And now with that in consideration, your premise doesn't really make sense. So I'm totally open to that too. Just as always, got to bring like actual real facts and evidence. And yeah, this video is very heavy on the speculation, obviously. Yeah, that pretty much flanges it all up for today's flange time. As always, give me that thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't. But if you do give me a thumbs down, do me a quick favor, give me some constructive feedback. Try and be a bit on the detailed and specific side. It's just hard to take action on vague, unspecific feedback. And I do want to grow and improve and learn and get better, and I need feedback to do that. I'm not always going to be able to notice things I do wrong. I mean, even if it's something like eye contact with you guys on the camera, the rhythm or cadence of my voice, you know, anything like that where you're like, hey, if you work on your speaking skills, your content will improve, you know, anything like that. I'm looking for any sort of feedback to help me grow and improve, and very interested in hearing from you all what I can do to improve. Hell, even if you give me a thumbs up, let me know what I can do to improve. Even if you like this, nothing's perfect. It can always be improved. And that about wraps it up. Had a little bit of a streaming break going on because of the Valve Index being in for RMA. Hopefully it'll be back by next week, I'm hoping, but you know, things can be variable, so just got to be patient with that one. And so starting next week, we'll be back to regular streaming, although the schedule might change depending on this week's experimentation, starting probably tomorrow morning. And yeah, I think that about wraps it up. I hope you all enjoyed the content. And as always, flange it up, and please remember to bring a towel, because no matter what, a towel is useful. Bye.